Hello students, today we will discuss about Hamilton-Jacobi theory. So in our last class we have seen what is Hamilton-Jacobi equation, and today we will look into what is the relevance of Hamilton-Jacobi equation and what is the significance of Hamilton's principal function. So as in the Hamilton-Jacobi theory, it is based on Hamilton-Jacobi equation, and that was applicable when Hamiltonian involves time. It is not a conserved quantity. In general, we make use of a canonical transformation such that the new Hamiltonian is 0. Okay, so the relation between old Hamiltonian and the new Hamiltonian will give the Hamilton-Jacobi equation, where the P has been expressed in terms of dou S by dou Q1, dou S by dou Q2, etc. up to dou S by dou Qn, which all indicate momentum, the new momentum, which are supposed to be the constants as per the canonical transformation we have done. So what is happening is that integrating this, because it involves n number of q variables and 1 t variable, so you have n plus 1 variables involved. Also you can see there are n number of partial differential of s as well as with respect to q, as well as one partial differential with respect to the time. So you have to integrate it n plus 1 time in order to get the solution s. So s will be a function of all the q's and time t, and also alpha. What are alpha? Alphas are the constant of integration. So if you are going to integrate n plus 1 time, you will be surely getting n plus 1 constant of integration. But we have mentioned here only n number of constants as integration, constants of integration. So what happened to the n plus 1th constant of integration? Yeah, we have taken it as an additive constant. Why? Because the s is not appearing in the equation as such, but it is as a partial derivative. So partial derivative of a function is same as the partial derivative of the same function with a constant, with an additive constant. That is what is mentioned earlier. So if you are going to differentiate a function, it would be the same if you differentiate the same function with an addition of constant, because if you differentiate the constant, the value will go to 0, so it will be same as dou S by dou Q itself. So we are taking one of constant of integration as an additive constant, and remaining n constant of integration are here chosen as the momentum. Okay, so comparing this solution S and the generating function, you can say that alphas represents the new momentum, because S is the generating function used for this particular transformation. We have chosen it as F2. And what is F2? It is a function of all the Q's, all the capital P values, and as well as the time. So comparing these two, you can see alphas or constant of integration corresponds to the constant momentum. Okay, so now let us write down the transformation equation of F2 or S, or in terms of S. So you know what are the transformation equations of F2? It is already having Q, so differentiating S with respect to the Q will give the canonical conjugate pk. Okay, so if I consider the time as t0 initial time, then these equations, how many equations are there? N such equation, p1, p2, etc. up to pn. So n such equations are there. So these equations relates alpha case with initial value of qk and pk. Why? Because whenever t is equal to t0, the value of q and p will be as that of initial values. So q, k in general, the zeroth component, zeroth value. Similarly, that is for qk. Similarly for pk also, at initial time it would be having the value pk 0 initial value. So just rearranging, you will get all the alphas as a function of qk and pk, which are the initial values, qk0 and pk0, okay, at initial time. Similarly, you can mention about the second half of the transformation equation, that is it already have capital pk in its expression or alpha in the expression. So the other half of equation will be differentiating the s with respect to alpha. So that will give the conjugate, which is capital qk. And we already mentioned that the capital Q's, which are the new coordinate, are constant in this particular canonical transformation. So that constant is denoted using beta k. So we'll use the same condition here also. We consider time as initial time. Then q, k and p alpha k will have pk will have the initial values. So you can see, just rearranging this equation, you can see beta k will be in terms of initial value of q and alpha. Alpha already contains initial value of qk0 as well as the initial value of pk. Okay, so again the same thing can be substituted, and you can see beta will be a function of qk0, pk0 and time t, which is the initial time. Okay, so we'll get, first of all, writing down the transformation equation, you'll get alpha and beta in terms of initial values. So once alpha and beta are known, which are actually related to the initial values of q and p, by just inverting, you'll get, inverting this equation, you'll get, inverting means rearranging, so that we can write it q equals. So q equals a function of alpha, pk and time t. Okay, and what is pk? pk is actually, you can write it as beta k. Okay, alpha k, beta k and time t. Okay, so similarly the coordinates as a function of time and initial condition are obtained. So what is that? That is the solution of the problem. So this particular equation has been obtained by just rearranging the transformation equation. Okay, and also you would have found out alphas and betas in terms of initial values. So then, on representing q as a function of alpha and beta, so this particular equation. Okay, so the first equation you are choosing is this equation. So just inverting, you will get it as q as a function of alpha and beta, and by substituting the q in this equation, in the first equation of transformation equation, you can see p can be written in terms of q, which is alpha and beta, and then again alpha is there and time t. Okay, so p is also expressed as alpha, a function of alpha, beta k and time t, which in turn are related to initial values of qk and initial value of pk. Okay, so that will finally give the solution. So that is how the solution is happening. So here you can see that we are not going for any solution of Hamilton's equation of motion, but we are actually solving using the Hamilton-Jacob equation. And what is the speciality? Hamilton's equation of motion was 2n numbers. It was present 2n in number, and they are just first order equations. You can say q dot and p dot equals, isn't it? So those are first order differential equation, while the Hamilton-Jacobi equation is the first order partial derivative differential equations. So there is an equivalence between 2n first order differential equation and the first order partial differential equation has been made in solving the problem. Now let us focus on Hamilton's principal function. So you know Hamilton principal function is the generating function similar to f2. Okay, so it is expressed in terms of q1, q2, etc. qn, alpha 1, alpha 2, etc. alpha n and time t. Okay, so it is considered as a generator of canonical transformation to a constant coordinate and a constant momentum. So when we solve Hamilton-Jacobi equation, we are obtaining the solution of the problem at the same time. We need not have to solve it again. When you solve the Hamilton-Jacobi equation, you'll straight away getting the solution. We don't have to write down the equation of motion. Okay, and as we said earlier, the alphas, which are the constant of integrations, are taken as the momentum. But it need not be the case. We can also take any function of these alphas, constant of integrations, can also be taken as the new momentum. Okay, so then we'll write P as a gamma, which is a function of all the alphas. Now let us see what is the physical significance of Hamilton's principal function. So in order to know the physical significance, what we do is that we take the total time derivative of S, Hamilton principal function. So as you can see, we can apply the chain rule here because S is dependent upon Q, while Q in turn is dependent upon time, and again alpha and time. So we can write it as dou S by dou q, which is the dependent variable, into d by dt of q, plus dou s by dou alpha, which are the next independent dependent variables of s, so into alpha dot, plus dou s by dou t. And you already know alphas are constants, so alpha dot will be 0. So the second term will be going to 0. Okay, so finally what you have is only the first term involving differential with respect to q and dou s by dou t. Now we can make use of transformation equations. So we have dou s by dou qi is equal to pi, and we have the Hamilton-Jacobi equation h plus dou s by dou t equal to 0, from which you can write what is dou s by dou t. It is equal to minus h. So substituting that, we have the total time derivative ds by dt equals summation over I pi. Instead of this, we have pi, then qi dot minus h equals, and what is that pi qi dot minus h? It is the Lagrangian. So we have Lagrangian over here. So what is actually the principal function as? It is given by integral L dt plus a constant of integration is involved. So here you can say you are familiar with integral L dt. What is that? It is the indefinite time integral. Limit indefinite in the so indefinite time integral of Lagrangian, which is called the action of the system. And here you can see this is actually this first part alone, plus a constant is what you meant by Hamilton's principal function. So the action of the system or the principal function differs from the action of system only in the presence of an additive constant. Okay. So we have seen how or what is Hamilton-Jacobi equation and how it is helpful in solving a problem. So now we'll apply this equation and solve the harmonic oscillator problem in a next class. Okay, thank you.